Welcome to our first episode of the African Man's Mental Health. In this episode, we discuss mental health and what it means for the African man.
Okay, let's get started. Greetings, everybody. My name is Chulu Chansa, and I am honored to be able to introduce you to the panelists and the host of this conversation. We are Africa the Master Plan, and this is basically an initiative that is looking for ways to push the continent forward. And whether you're in the diaspora, whether you are located on the continent, we just believe in working in collaboration and being able to help each other to thrive and be the best that we can be. So, as I said, my name is Chulu, and my co-host is Muma Sinkala, and she is currently in the UK and Zambian by birth. Then on the panel, we have Peter Daka, popularly known as PJ, and he is an entrepreneur. I like to say an empire builder. He is also Zambian, a family man, and a gym addict. We also have, okay, Daniel hasn't yet joined yet, but we also have Olajide Keshinro, and he is American born and Nigerian raised. He is a professional basketballer, and he has been a professional athlete for the last 6 years and played in 4 different countries over the last 6 years. He is an advocate for young Black men, especially athletes, to be more aware about mental health. And we also have Lukonde Kasonde, and he is an ICT senior manager in ICT senior management, and he is Zambian but based in South Africa, and he is a travel connoisseur. And our final panelist is, but not the least, is Daniel Denge, and he hasn't yet joined yet, but as soon as he does join, we will be able to introduce him. So Daniel Denge is a medical practitioner. He has 6 years experience in mental health. He was born in Kenya to Ethiopian parents and is currently based in the United States. So as you can see, this is a panel with a wealth of experience from different walks of life and sectors and different industries. And the topic for today is African men and mental health. So please, just a few house rules. Kindly keep yourself, if you're not a panelist, kindly keep yourself on mute. If you've got any questions, please feel free to type them in the chat. We will get to them by the end of the talk. We have some prepared questions for the panelists. And once we get through that, then we'll open it up for discussion. Thank you so much for being here. And I hope you find this conversation productive and educative. Moma.
Hello, everybody. So I'll be the person asking all the questions, firing away. Some of them may be impromptu. We tend to have a question structured already, so the panelists know what we're talking to them about, but we may ask leading questions out of the questions, you know? Okay, so to begin with, we've got the first question. Any of you can choose to go first to answer this. The first question is, how crucial do you feel that mental health is to an African man's development? Lukonde?
Right.
How crucial do you feel mental health is to African men's development?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I think to start with, in the first place, mental health is crucial to every human being. I know in this context, we're trying to look at the African man in particular, but then if you look at this in a more holistic approach, so mental health encompasses all aspects of our life, our psychological, social, everything that we touch on. you find to say it enables our ability in the economic participation and all other things. So it's one aspect which is very important in every man's life. And now to be specific in this context to the African man, you find to say it influences our decisions again to a large extent as well. So for me, it's an aspect which is very important and yet has been overlooked in so many ways, especially if you look at our African context.
Right.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'll just interrupt you there. I would just like to formally welcome Daniel, who has joined the conversation. Good morning, Daniel. I know this is a bit early.
Good morning.
All right, so we have just started. The first question has been asked, but thank you so much for being a panelist. Moma?
Okay, Daniel. Hi, thank you and welcome. So I've asked the first question and the first person has responded. So we're just doing it in concession. So the next person will answer, and I think it was Olo. You were about to say something?
Yeah, I'm gonna go next. So, well, first of all, like the most important thing is like we need to educate ourselves what mental health is and the difference between mental health and the illness, right? Because a lot of us don't understand the difference between the two. You know, when you they don't understand the difference between the two, and I feel like it's very crucial because it's part of our everyday life, right? We go through different feelings, different emotions throughout the day. So mental health is part of everything we do. So it is very, 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 very important for us to understand, to learn the skills to help us deal with these emotions that we go through throughout the day. So
okay, that makes sense. So you're saying that because the thought processes that we go through every day as we're doing things, we either get really depressed or really happy, and we go through a roller coaster of emotions. Mental health is really important to how we develop, because it starts as a small thing that we build up to every day, and eventually.
Exactly. Because we men, we put in this box, right? That we're not supposed to show our feelings. And this stuff from where when you're young, you're not supposed to, you can't even, sometimes I feel like you can't even talk to your parents, about, how you feeling, because it's just not something you talk about.
Yeah.
But can you really blame them? Because they don't even know what it is. They've been put in that box like, oh, men are not supposed to show emotions. You're just supposed to be a man. You're supposed to be, the provider of the family. And, you're not supposed to cry. You're not supposed to, people you go through, during the day, different stuff happen throughout your day, right? So you go through different emotions, you have different feelings. So why shouldn't that's the first thing we need to be able to do. We need to be able to talk about these feelings, we need to be able to talk about these feelings, and we need to learn the skills to help us deal with these feelings. So so that's why I feel like it is very, for the younger generation coming up, I think we need to bring more awareness to this. They need to understand, it's okay. You could feel it's okay to be different. It's okay. So you need help. It's okay to get help. Don't feel that doesn't make you different because you want to get help because you're feeling, certain way. That don't make you different from anybody else.
That's very deep. And I think personally, I feel that's so really important for many. One of the main reasons Chulo and I wanted to do this is because we do not feel that enough young Black African men are hearing this from other older Black African men.
Right.
Or they're not even sure that you guys think the way you think, what you've just explained, all the emotions that you go through, feeling that you should be able to talk about feelings, but you don't. So thank you for that. PJ, what's your view on this?
Okay, I think what the other gentlemen have mentioned is correct. Just to add on to what they've said, I think the truth of the matter is, regarding us young men and the older folks, I think there is lack of information that is being brought down to the young ones, in the sense of how to handle certain things, or especially when you grow up, when you're growing or getting into of age. So you find that you see a good example is when people are actually getting married. You notice that it's always the female that is always having the tough lessons of how to treat a man, how to cater to him, how you must behave towards him, how you must respect him, how you must do all sorts of things, so many things. So it's sad that for us men we're just given certain basics to say, oh, you know what, all you have to do is provide. You have to be the man of the house. You have to give orders, do ABCD, which is not supposed, which is understandable, yes. But I mean, you as a man, I mean, you're with a partner, so you have to also understand how a woman works. A woman has to be. She's human being. She's a human being. She also has to be treated in a certain type of way. So with us men, we are not given that avenue of saying, of being told, okay, certain things should be done in a certain way in order to help your partner. None of those things are being taught to the young generation, and I feel there's it's widespread. As Lukonde mentioned earlier, to say, we just need to be to suck it up. It's not supposed to be that way. It isn't that way. I mean, men have feelings also. We cry. We also need to seek support. But you find that even where we are, if a good example, if Daniel is in a financial crisis, I mean, there are very few people that will actually lend a hand to him, because there's that stigma of man up. It shouldn't be that way. We need to support each other at a wider, broader length. Yeah.
I agree with everything that you just said. Wow, like this conversation is really amazing to me, because I'll just recap the first three things that I think you guys have said. You've talked about, first of all, self-development. It's an individual thing. Not you, PJ. The other panelists first talked about self-development. Then Ola talked about, we go through different emotional, it's okay to talk about your feelings. We're going through so many things in the day. And PJ, you've mentioned something that I feel is so critical to any human's change. It's the unlearning and the unpacking of ideas that you've been given as a child. And that's the gap that exists between the older generation and the younger generation. And what you've said is how we're raised is really crucial to our development. And if men are not being raised well, and not being raised as equals to their women, we all know, of course, that we've all got different capabilities as men and women, but as human beings who go out in society and have to deal with each other, I think a similar level of emotional intelligence should be taught to both females and males, in my opinion. I agree with you, PJ, very much so. Daniel, can you hear me? So the question, you were not here before I asked the first question, and it was, how crucial do you feel mental health is to an African man's development?
Yeah, so the first thing is you got to ask yourself, what is mental health? It's like the general well-being, the well-being of the family. It will be the well-being of your body, the well-being of your mindset. It could mean the whole, it's not only like one specific thing that you focus on. But for an African man, the thing is this, we've got to first ask ourselves, what is our position in the current society? Before, we used to run everything, and we were it. There was nothing that goes above our head, below us, or anything around us. So, but the thing is, in a very changing world where the equality is approaching, first, as an African man, I have to accept that you are also equal partner in this game. It's not about me making all the decision by myself and not focusing on what is, like, let's say, my wife feeling about it. How is she approaching it? How is she seeing things from her own angle? Because the thing is, like, for a long time, even growing up in Africa, I've seen a lot of women take the burden but then the man takes the credit. You know, especially raising the kid, he says, especially when the son does well or the female do well, and the mother was raising, the father will, you know, like says, yes, I did so good, you know, and like, but then where were you? Like the last 20 years, you've never been even home.
Yeah.
You
Wow.
see, so that's where we think about. But then the other thing is also about an African man is that are we ready? Just like what our white male are also struggling with is that what is our role in the future? You know, something that we need to really uh, look deep and focus in, key in. So for African men, though, like we've been trained though, to be strong no matter what, you know, and that's the biggest challenge that an African man has to face. Even in the face of adversity, it's like you've been trained to be strong, and we never seek help, we never talk about it. We always have to show that macho man, you know, like yes, I got it, yeah, you know, and then this really wear down on us for for a long time, and that's why like you will see suicide rate among men is way higher in
Yeah.
African.
Well, Daniel, that leads me. I'm going to ask you, since you're still talking, the next question, because it's similar to what you're just saying. And the next question is, what toxic traits that relates to mental health would you like see eliminated out of African culture? And I feel like you touched on them just now when you said things like, men do certain things and then women do certain things and then men get the credit. I assume that's one toxic trait. To me, it sounds like a toxic trait. What do you think? Yeah, go on, you can answer that question.
Yeah, the thing is that for African men, first, it's okay to be, you know, sometimes you don't have to portray that you're strong. That we have to accept that fact that we will not be able to be smiling all the time, say, yeah, I got this. Sometimes you'll be pushed in a corner where like things may not go your way, and accept it. Talk to your wife in the silence, talk to your body. And that's like we need to figure out about that. And even women, when your husband tells you the secret, and that's not the time to like put him down more, you know, like says, hey, why you like that, you know, and then you know, and then you also share with other people. But for example, you know, like let's say if Moma, I share with you some intricate personal matter in the life, that doesn't give you the power to go and share with everybody and demean your own husband, you know. And I've seen that like in most instances, even in the most dysfunctional family, you will see that the women disrespect the man in public. And that's one thing, you know. So that's why like sometimes men are afraid to share with their women. It's like the women might sometimes feel like, I got this guy, let me fix him, you know, where he hurts the most, you know. Because sometimes you never know, like the pain you've been carrying for a long time, and then this is not the time to like you know, like kill him once for all, you know, and emotionally. And I've talked to even families, yeah, like especially in African settings, and I've seen that where the man is not very strong, you know, like the strong guy that really defend himself, the women take over and run the house. It's okay to run the house, but you also have to like empower him silently, raise him. You don't have to like put him down. So for us to change, the women also have to change when the way they approach the African men, because at the end of the day, you know, no matter how educated you are, no matter how, you know, well off you are financially, they should always be the head of the family, no matter what, you know. It's not like about you losing, as women losing power. It's just like in the hierarchy settings, like the men also, you know, it don't, it's a very tight line. So we are changing, we are conforming to the future of the society, but it's also like a mutual respect where like this, like for example, if I correct my son, the mother does not have to like say no in front of the kid and say, don't correct him, this is my son, I love him. and you know, and then that means there's a power struggle. There shouldn't be a power struggle in their house.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay, thanks, Daniel, for your candid answer. Ola, what do you think? What do you feel about that question?
Like some of the traits, oh boy. I mean, we could see and
What
talk about
toxic traits that relate to mental health should we remove out of our African cultures?
we could see and talk about that from today to tomorrow, to
You
be honest.
mentioned 3.
But I'm just gonna go with some of them, like the most important one, right? I feel like the first thing we need to do is stop being closed-minded when it comes to mental health and therapy. In the African culture, right? They look down upon mental health and therapy. Like they think therapy is like, oh, it's for the rich people. Yeah. Or if not, you're crazy. They look at you like, oh, you crazy. There's something wrong with this guy. Why is he going to therapy? But when it comes to going out, right? To going to parties, right? To show off, we're the first in line. We want to dance. We want to do that Afro dance, the juju music and everything. We're over there spraying money. But when it comes to like taking care of ourselves to be better, we don't do that. We think, oh, it's so expensive.
So it's so easy to spend money on things, but not things that are for our well-being.
For your exactly, for our well-being. This is more important than any other thing. And then another thing that I like to touch is like stop forcing your dream onto your child. Like a lot of African parents tend to do that. Like their dreams they couldn't have. They want to force it on the child. So it's like, oh, you can't do this. I want you to do this. So in the Nigerian culture, right? A lot of Nigerian parents want the child to be a doctor or a nurse. But is that really what the child wants? You get me, yeah? So, that's another thing we need to stop. We need to, another one is like, we need to find a better way of communicating, right? With our child. A lot of times, when you come back home, an example is like when you come home from school, right? Your parents like, oh, I was cool. Meaning, they're not asking, how was your day? They're asking, I was cool. Meaning, did you do your homework? Did you get A's? They're not really worried about how you feeling. They're not worried about like what emotions you're going through because they feel like, yo, I give you money. What else do you need? All you need to do is focus with school, which shouldn't only be the case. I get it. That's very good. You're giving the child, money you providing and everything, but also you need to be there for them, whatever they're going through, you need to be able to help them, And then another one is, another one will be, stop worrying about all right. So another one, this relates to me very well, about expressing love. African parents don't do that a lot. I could tell you how many times my parent hugged me when I was younger. I could tell you how many times my parent told me that they loved me when I was younger. That don't mean they don't love you. It's just not something we show in African culture. We don't be like, oh, I love you, son, like give you a hug from time to time, like good job, they don't, it's not something we do. It's just like, okay, well, I love you, so that's another thing, we need to try and get rid of. That's pretty much it. I can't hear you.
Sorry, I muted myself because somebody was making noise outside. Oh yeah, PJ, what's your take on what toxic traits we need to eliminate out of our African culture?
I think what we need to, for me personally, what needs to be eliminated is the narrow-minded thinking of the education system. As Olaji, I hope I pronounced that correct, had mentioned, you see, with the education system in Africa is basically, from childhood, you go to school, get grade A's, go to university, get a degree, become a doctor, lawyer, engineer. I mean, those are the top jobs that parents want every child to become, so that they can actually speak about them, to all their friends and peers, which shouldn't be the case. You see, there's so much more out there than being a lawyer or being a doctor or being informal employment. Sorry to say this if anyone is in these fields, but I mean, we respect what you're doing, and that's well and good. But I mean, there's so much more. If someone decided wants to be a pilot, if someone wants to be an entrepreneur or a business owner or a club owner or a real estate agent, I mean, what is stopping our fellow young men and women to become who they want to be? You see, because you see, there's this stigma that a majority of the older folks who come to, and I'll give you a good example. I'm speaking from for myself. I wanted to be a pilot, yeah, but I think things didn't go accordingly. I did a few classes here and there, and it ended there. But you see, what happened was I was living a dream that was for my father. And initially what sat in the back of my mind is I just wanted to do business. I wanted to be a businessman. I wanted to thrive. I wanted to do so much for the community. I wanted to do so much for myself. I wanted to be proud of myself. But what happened, even when I told so many people to say I want to be so and so, I want to do events, it reached a point where I was shot down by so many family members. I was told off. I was insulted. I was given the works. I was told left, right, and center. You see, now you can imagine if another gentleman or another man goes through that, what will happen in their mindset? They'll shrivel up, they'll cave in, and they will go back and listen to what everybody has to say, and initially do what everybody has to say. But you see, one thing that majority of human beings need to understand is that even in today's world, there are only 3% of people in this world that are free from doing what they want, because the 97% are controlled by the 3%. A lot of people don't understand this. I mean, you are at liberty to do what you want. So many people will tell you no, all because they have that own fear of failing. And I'll tell you this, for me, where I have reached in society and in my personal life is that I've done so much, I have failed so much in business, but it does not stop me from achieving what I need to achieve. So I think the education aspect needs to be broader, in the sense that, I mean, kids need to be asked, what is it that they want to become? Do you want to be an entrepreneur? Do you want to be an astronaut? Do you want to be, I mean, it's so broad. But we shouldn't have this stigma. We shouldn't point fingers at somebody who wants to be different. Nobody should be judged based on what they feel they want to become. And
I agree with you. So then
yeah.
I've got a leading question. Sorry to disturb you, because I want to keep on your line of thought. So then what you're really saying is the narrow-mindedness of our education system should be removed as a trait within African system, which we all believe came from colonization. You then talked about more support should be given to young people's dreams, not killing them because of the ideas that our parents or whatever give. You mentioned something that I feel is really important: fear. The view of African society and fear is really saddening to me. Just say something about that. I feel like fear or failure should be something that is actually like encouraged in a positive way, because no person who's ever done anything never failed. I mean, pretty much you applied for a job and didn't get the first one immediately, or things like that, different things that you've done, you failed at some point. But how within those families do people, what do you think people should do about that?
I think families should understand the issue of fear, in the sense that let me throw you a bit back. When a baby is born, the baby learns how to crawl and learns how to walk. the number of times the baby is going to fall is going to be so many times. But as a parent, do you continuously try and prevent your child from falling? No. You have to continue to let your child fall so that they learn. But you see what happens with the human brain. As you get older, you become more aware of your surroundings. And as human beings, by genetics, we tend to draw back. Fear is an automatic thing that sits in our brain. It just sits there no matter what. Give it, you can't hide. If someone fires a gunshot right now, trust me, everyone on this panel will scamper down, will drop.
True.
But you see that the trick is with our mind is that we have to train our minds to overcome fear. It is something that we can train time and again. For me, I'm training my mind time and again. And my wife always tells me, she always asks me to say, look, you're going to do this. Are you going to do this? Is it safe? Is it thing? How are we going to see ourselves? And I always tell her to say, let's just hope for the best. Things will be okay. Because I affirm to myself that everything is going to be okay. Everything that we do in our life is a state of mind. Everything. So the fear needs to be eliminated by training our minds and affirming positivity and greatness in ourselves. And the only way we can do that is starting with yourself, to affirm that you have the capacity and you have the capability to be better in society, not just for everybody else, but for yourself, to prove to yourself that you can be worthy of doing something great in society. And everybody else will actually, I think everything else will trickle through. And with the support of fellow brothers, we can actually achieve something greater. Because I think with the older folks, what used to happen was, I think maybe the gentleman on the panels will agree with me, is that when somebody of breaks bank, I mean makes it big, everybody wants to understand what they have done, how they have achieved it. But you find majority of men will be shy away, not to ask to say, how do you do it? It's either someone with bad mouth or bad talk him of how he got his wealth. But if you look at today's youth, everybody's going to ask. Anyway, it's starting now. Everyone is asking, how did you do it? How did you get to where you are? How did you achieve it? And you will find that the number of times these people have failed is so many times as opposed to how many times they got it right. I think, Muma, you agree with me. You've listened to so many motivational videos. You will fail your way to success, but
100%.
so many people need to overcome the fear of failure. So
Wow.
it starts with our mind.
So I feel like you've covered everything. You've actually covered the question twice, which I think is really important. I'm going to recap everything you guys say at the end. Lukonde, what toxic traits relating to mental health would you like seen eliminated out of African culture?
Well, toxic is quite a heavy term, which I'm battling with, because I believe there's quite a number of positive attributes coming out of our African culture, and I'm a very big believer in African culture. But of course, we must also acknowledge in areas where we've failed, where we've overemphasized on gender roles. And this, as a result, has led to, especially in the arena of men sort of like feeling under pressure because of the expectations set forth by the boundaries. But for me, I think we need to take a step back and just start asking ourselves what is relevant in our world today, and try and weigh things in light of international human rights and see how we can take it further. Because for me, it's not a point of shaming and blaming. I always believe in balancing things and not looking at things as a single story. Because there's quite a number of positive things which have come out of the African culture. I can talk about myself. I think for me, I'm lucky in the sense that I had very positive influence from my grandparents, both from my paternal and maternal sides. And then also the extended family played a huge role in my life as well. You find to say, for me, as a person, these are some of the things that have boosted my self-confidence and generally just my mental well-being as well, as a contributing factor. So for me, I think what is key, as opposed to look at things in one pocket, I think it's critical that we look at where we are today and try and ask ourselves very serious questions in terms of what really is relevant to us today. And I think one aspect which is also key is, as a family, as friends, we constantly need to reintroduce ourselves and reevaluate our values as well. I think that's my.
Well, reintroduce yourself and reevaluate our values. Okay, so I agree with you, Lukonde. I'm going to get back to you again. You're the last person to speak, so I'm going to get back to you. This is the third question, and I agree. I get what you're saying when we say what toxic traits relate to mental health with that would need to be eliminated within our culture. We were very aware of that, so we created another leading question that then talks about the healthy traits within our culture, because we believe no tradition is not dynamic. There are things that are bad that come out of the good people are trying to create, and good things. So the third question is, what healthy traits within African culture would you like to pass on to other African men? And I think you even alluded to it when you mentioned how you were raised and how you had so much support. And I think that's the main word I got from your support from both your maternal and paternal grandparents.
I think for me, one of the things which has always fascinated me about our African culture is a sense of solidarity. Solidarity in the sense that when we're grieving, we come together. When we're celebrating, we come together. I think for me, in supporting each other in as far as the mental well-being is concerned, our mental health is, let's use the solidarity which underlies our culture to use this as a platform to also grow on our mental health, especially where we identify pockets of weakness in one another, and whereby we also create safety amongst ourselves, using these issues of solidarity to say, okay, listen, we've identified a problem here, but normally as men, we don't feel safe to talk about our inner beings. That's why a lot of our stuff is suppressed for the fear of not be seen to be weak. So this normally then results in more in acts of anger and other things. So for me, it's creating the safety as well within our communities, within our families, even just in the circle of friends. I think that is key. And so using the unifying factor of solidarity, which we really thrive on, I think there we can use it as a building block.
Okay, that's really nice. I'm glad to hear that from Black men, African men. It's really important. I think solidarity. Peter, what do you think? What healthy things within our culture would you like to see passed on to other African men? So today, right now, we've got so many young men on the panel. They're listening to you. What would you like to say to other young African men? What healthy things that you've learned yourself do you want to pass on to them?
I think one aspect for me is I think it's respect. Respect for each other, respect for your elders, and respect for our fellow women in society. I think with the Western world, what's happening is we're picking up so many things that are in the negative, and I don't think we should allow that kind of negativity to come into our culture. I mean, in the habit of swearing, cursing women, demeaning them, showing no respect to your elders, your uncles, your grandfathers. There's so many things that are happening in society. I mean, if you see kids today driving daddy's car, some of them become careless on the road, and you find if just one elderly man comes to just give a lecture or tell them to say, look, you're being careless, can you be safe? The response will be of a negative, and that we should not allow that, even with the kids that are coming today. I mean, of course, we listen to all this music, we enjoy it and everything. We enjoy that in parties, moments here and there, in the car and everything. But there should be a red tape of how we conduct ourselves towards our elders and our fellow women. And I think also to mention what Daniel had said in the first question. I think sometimes, you know, it's a ripple effect when when respect is not given to our ladies. You'll find that if a lady is in a marriage and, you know, certain things are not done, you know, towards her in terms of respect, in the end she retaliates. But I think it doesn't come from the man, the man in present, but I think it has come from the man she had been with, or somebody, maybe a father or an uncle who verbally abused them. So you'll find that, you know, she has built a thick skin or a thick wall around it. So that is a defense mechanism also to just, you know, put certain people in place, and in the end the current man also ends up suffering. So it's a whole chain. We have to start from where we are, from who we are, and give examples, be examples to the people that are close to us, so that even the people in your house who are leaving the house, it disseminates into the general public, to show that where they're coming from is a place of love and respect.
Wow.
Yeah.
So your positive thing that you'd like to pass on to other African men is to show the part of love and respect that should be typical of our actual culture, and not be too enthralled by Western ways of thinking.
Exactly.
Okay, I guess it makes sense, yeah. And Ola, what's your view on this? What healthy traits within our African cultures would you like to pass to other African men listening today who are young, who are older, whatever? What would you like? What are things about our culture that you think should?
Well, we got a lot going for us when it comes to that. You know, we got a lot going for us. I'm just gonna you know, pick the few ones. We should stay hardworking, right? You know, because the younger generation, they don't want to work, because that's just the way the new generation. You know, we should stay hardworking. Everything is gonna work for the better, because we should stay hardworking, and then we should learn to take breaks, because a lot of times our parents, our uncles, you know, they work 2-3 jobs, and they don't even take break for themselves. The body's tired. Sometimes you need to take that break. You know, some people work for 10 years without even taking one single vacation, because, you know, they're so worried about like the status. You know, they want to become rich. What's the point of having money if you're not mentally okay?
Yeah, 100%. Wow, that's,
you know. So we need to work hard, but also work smart, right? Make sure you take a break. Make sure you take a break from time to time. Take a vacation. Relax. You know, everything is gonna be all right. Another thing I'm gonna say is like, never lose hope. Always have faith. I understand the way our African culture is set up right now. Like the government, the greed is killing us.
Yeah.
But we can't lose hope. One day we gotta hope everything's gonna change for the better. We can't lose hope. We understand the greed and the corruption that's going on right now. We understand, but just have that hope that one day somebody's gonna come and we are gonna make a change one day. So, you know, always don't lose the hope and have faith in it. Another one that I was gonna say is always look out for one another, right? Let's build each other up. Don't tear each other down because, he's richer than me. You know, I'm gonna, I don't care. You know, when somebody do good stuff, give them their flowers. Meaning, give them their flowers while they're here. Now, after they die, like, yeah, he was a good guy. Why you didn't tell him that when he was here? You know, we tend to do that a lot. So make sure you give them their flowers while they're here, and then that's pretty much it for me. So.
Thank you. And Daniel, finally, what healthy traits do you want to pass on, points of views to our African men out there? We don't have much time, so keep it short, and then we'll open up quickly for any questions that the people have. Sorry.
Yeah, so first, I want to tell, first, for African people to heal, for us to heal, I want to just go back one step behind and say that we should not fear each other. We are not our own enemies. We are brothers. That is even the boundary between Kenya and Ethiopia. That's an imaginary line. It's not existent. We should love and not fear each other. Because if we loved each other, right now, Pan-African would have been there. Yeah. But we have this fear. I don't understand why I should feel a Nigerian. I am a black man. If I come to the Western world, they will see me as a black man, period. Mm-hmm. So that is where we need to start from, because we have a very strong mentality. An African man is forgiving. Even after many years of slavery, they produce the best music. Yeah. They share love. And one thing that even caught me in London, I see a white man was about to be killed. Here comes our beautiful young black man, carry him on the back and takes him to the safety. Yeah. We have so much goodness in us that is the few little things. And the other thing is, to the people who are listening, we have some problems, but we have a lot of goodness. That the pot is almost full. The little thing is we just to tweak a little bit into surviving in the generation of the future. If we were staying back in the pre-colonization, pre-slavery, I think we needed nothing to change. But yeah. But right now we have to adapt to because the world runs on money. And anywhere the money is, the greed come in. But yeah. Let us not lose the focus that we are brothers. And in this even goes to the Ethiopian, my fellow Ethiopians, and sometimes they think like people from West Africa are too dark, and it's not, we are all black at the end of the day. It doesn't really matter. We are brothers. But one thing is that we should not lose the loving, the caring for all of us. So something that I want to pass down to my son is, no matter what, he should be caring, loving, yeah. Patient. Those all the attributes that makes us who we are. Because I think this world, is existing because we provide so much love.
100%. I just want to clap for you all. I mean, I feel so empowered listening to you black men speak like this. We were gonna ask a secret question, but I think we should open it up firstly to people's questions, and then if we have more time, or those panelists that want to stay. But just one quick word. I want to say thank you so much to each and every one of you for taking your time to come and talk to other African men and hear your views on what it is to be an African man, the struggles that you go through, what we need to change, what you would like to see different. But I want to say something to all of you as well. I just say to you before we started that I Googled to see if there's any African blog on African men's mental health, or even if there's a YouTube channel or podcast, and I couldn't find anything. You guys, we have resources. Why don't you join us? I mean, the whole point of why me and Chulu have created Africa, the Master Plan, is to educate and elevate the Africans. This platform is for anybody, even anyone listening. Say to us, would like a panel discussion, can I use your platform? And, we're going to talk about mental health once a week with other African men and have a round table. The main reason we choose to use Zoom is so that it's obviously controlled, because we want to create a safe space and to have some rules. Sometimes when you're just on a live, it's everywhere. Talk to us after this. If you are interested, RSVP, email the africatmp@gmail.com and tell us what your view is. And if you want to take control of the conversation, we can always give you that once a month and have this discussion with other men, because what you've said right now, every other African man is thinking it, but nobody's talking about it. They need to hear this, and the only way to go through healing, a young girl was abused just the other day. All that is all the traumas that we keep internalizing that we never talk about. We need African men to start communicating with each other, and African women as well. You guys brought out so many points that we're not just about African men. women as well, and how do we get more dialogue? So thank you so much. I'll pass on to Chulu now. She's gonna ask all the questions that everyone's asked. With so many, I keep seeing so many questions as you guys are talking. This is how interesting this panel discussion is. Chulu, over to you.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I've got lighting issues. All right. So the first question was asked by Stu, and this was to Daniel.
Chulu, we can't hear you. You're very low. Yeah, your volume is very, very low.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, but very faintly.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. So the first question was directed to Daniel, and this is from Stu. The question reads, don't you think that these societal expectations weigh so much on men's shoulders? The desire to be the man of the house is one reason why most of our men are dropping dead.
Yes. So for me, the way we can approach this is like we have to co-share, like learning to co-share responsibilities. You know, I cannot be a Superman. I work all day out there and then come home and wash the dishes while you've been sitting the entire day on the TV watching channels after channels. Then that I don't think that is fair, you know. But it comes to like, or if my wife decide to go to school, then when I'm home, I should be sweeping the floor or mopping the floor. You know, it's just like understanding that there are places the co-sharing is okay, you know, to the point where like you do not have to foot all the bills. It's okay. So if there's you put all the money together, like for example, in my instances, I am like right now I have 5 degrees and my wife got an associate degree, and there is no way I should be having 5 degrees and my wife has 1 degree or 0 degrees, or she doesn't even go to school at all. I have to empower her. How will I empower others? Or like, let's say if I want to run for president of Kenya or Ethiopia, how will I impact others if I'm not impacting my own home?
Okay, thank you. This next question is for Lukonde, and it's around defining a safe space, and how does one begin to create that in the family setting?
Okay, I think the first step to a safe space is lack of judgment, whereby people are willing to hear you when you present them with something, and then there will be solidarity in that you try and find a solution together. Because the first step there is judgment. Normally, what lacks in safety is when you put so much judgment around something. If you make it conducive for me to come to you and talk about my whatever stuff I'm going through, then you've created that safe space for me, because then I can feel safe to even elaborate about what's going on in my mind. So for me, it's all about no judgment and making sure that we try and look for a solution going forward. That's very important, because most of the times people are not sharing stuff because of the fear of judgment. You know, like in Bemba, I would say valanseka and that sort of thing.
Okay, thank you. The next question is for PJ. You mentioned education reform. So what, in this panel as we are not necessarily in power, I would say, but how do you think would be the next best steps for trying to get some sort of education reform in our countries, and to get that moving?
I think it's just a matter of speaking out to the governments, and I think maybe by setting an example of I mean, look, we can actually do it ourselves to show that there are other means and ways of making an income or having an income, not just by simple or formal employment, or following the one-track educational system. I mean, look, there are number of millionaires and billionaires that are out there who are not who haven't declared so much, but you can see them and see how they're doing and what they've achieved, all because they believed in themselves. It starts with us. It honestly just starts with us. We have to make a change. We have to make the move so that eventually the government of the day will actually see what's going on and see what is happening, because you can't, I mean, how many kids are in the villages who are doing this same educational system and don't want to have skills. They have skills that can impact, the world at great length, but it is narrowed down to that that little line. You can find, I mean, you'll find somebody in the village who wants to be an astronaut, who wants to who is who understands chemistry to the point where they can actually create something even better. I mean, good example is you look at Elon Musk. This man is born and bred in South Africa, but look at what he's doing today. You cannot tell me that he decided to become a doctor or anything else. He chose his own path, and that path is far much greater than what it is what any other people are actually, or rather the majority are doing today. So it starts with us. We have to come together. We have to unite and forge forward. The fear has to be eliminated. It just has to go. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. The next question I have is for Olajide. So patients, I'll just read it out real quickly and then I'll summarize the question. Patience says she feels the reason why most people don't feel the need to learn about mental issues is because most of the coping mechanisms are against most of the African way of life. So when we're talking about coping mechanisms, so talking about your mental health is a great sign of weakness. Seeking help from other people, our culture calls for us to keep things within the family, but most of the people in our families lack relevant information of what the youth are going through. So what would you advise to somebody who is in a situation where they don't know where to go for help, or you only know as much as you know? So they know that this isn't a safe space, or this is not a space where I can necessarily go to my parents or whoever. So what would your advice be?
All right, so great question, right? In the African culture, right, we always act like we know more than we do, which is like very wrong. Why should I go to somebody that don't even understand what it is to be able to help me? So we need to look for professionals, right? Somebody that actually know what they're talking about. We need to be able to go to them. And that's the problem with Africa, with the greed and corruption. The government should be able to create like different platforms, different helpline to help people with that's going through different illness, mental health issues. Like they should be able to go to them without having any fear, without having like, oh, I don't have the money. Like Africa is blessed enough that the government could create, like they could create platforms for people to be able to go to help them, I would just say, to be honest, just kind of look for like a therapist. Mm-hmm. Because like a lot of times our parent, even if you tell them, they might try to shut it down because they don't understand what it is. And we need to be able to, we need to break that generational cause, because they pass it down from generations to generations. I don't blame them, because it was passed down from the older generation to them, and now they're passing it down to us, and that's why we want to end the stigma, right? So I would just say, like, seeking outside counseling might be the best way to go.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, I just wanted to add something just quickly over and above what you have said. So I think one of the things we should also seriously consider looking at is mentorship, especially for the boys. You find to say when girls are transitioning into adulthood, there's always that sort of support mechanism going on. But for boys, when you're going into adulthood, you find to say people are just left to fend for themselves, get information from the streets and that sort of thing. But then if we could identify mentors for boys especially, it could be from the church community, from the local community, and sometimes even just from the extended family and that sort of thing, that could actually help to fill this gap. That's a huge problem which exists because you find to say no one is talking to the boys.
100%. I agree. Chulu, can I just say something? I agree with you, Konde, 150%. This is the reason why we have so many issues. The resources are not existent. The mentorship is not there. And that, just to say, at the end of this, I'm going to share all the resources that I found about Black men's mental health. So I found like therapyforblackmen.org. There's a website where even if your country doesn't give you these resources, you can go online and you can talk to like an online therapist, and there's articles and things like that.
Okay, so that actually leads into Peniel's question, because he was asking for the resources and, you know, what places are there and why are they not being used? So I guess anyone can take that question. Why are, because I'll give an example. In Zambia at UTH in Lusaka, there is a psych department and they offer their services literally for free. You pay an initial amount of something like 50 kwacha, I think. Anyway, it's minimal. But why are these resources not being used?
Well, I'll go. You know, the reason why some of the resources are not being used is because people don't even understand what mental health is and what mental illness is, and they worried about if they go, they worry about, you know, people looking at them like they crazy. Which shouldn't be the case. If you need help, you need help. So you should be able to go and get help without worrying about stop worrying about what other people think about you.
Daniel?
So first we have to understand the demographic of Africa and how we do exist. Is that first and foremost, even here in America, one thing that I've seen is like the burden of time. You know, people a mother who has to go to the market and do business, leave a business and go for like 1 or 2 hour of session to the point where sometimes she might not feel like the person she's talking have a better, solution for a problem. Like, for example, if someone is here for depression because of the financial issue, I think, giving that person another platform of how to make money. Like, for example, in America, if someone says that I'm bored at my work, I don't like this job, you can tell them, what do you like? And direct him to the job that he likes. See, the problem is created and the solution is offered. But in Africa, how are we going to create a solution for a problem that exists, but we don't have solution? So that's why it's also not even the fear of, while I think, lack of not understanding that there are those kind of resources, and also the fear of just what people might think about me dealing with depression, or, it's just about there's some few things like, economical aspect of Africa, but I want to just go over quickly in African setting. Like, for example, when I was looking up at Sierra Leone, for example, Sierra Leone, there's only like one psychiatrist in the entire nation. And you understand, like, in that nation, they went through war. So probably from the study that I was doing, almost 50% have PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. So it could be like the people are willing, the resources are not there, or the resources are not there, the people want the solution. So, but just to answer one quick question about, I was just thinking about it, is that in the African belief system, what coping skills can we use that are in line with African? So one of the coping skills, like, for example, meditation. We do pray,
Yeah.
Praying is part of meditation. People don't know. Like when you go to church and kneel, we pray to out, to God who's in outer space. You are meditating. That's that's what people don't realize, that meditation is a form of prayer. It's just like you don't pray. Like you could tell people pray, and that's why like on Sundays our churches in Africa is full. You don't realize that people are healing the emotional stress of everyday struggle. And that's why you see, like sometimes I go to church and I look around here in America, the church or the mosque is empty because people have other places too. They pray at home or they meditate at home, or they are so busy with looking for money and all that stuff, they don't attend. But in Africa, I see that. So one form is our pastors. Our pastors, nobody knows that, but the pastors, the imam, they act as a social worker or a pastor, like a psychologist. Because they listen to people's problem and try to find a solution. Sometimes they don't have a lot of resources, but they give little solutions. So sometimes going to those kind of avenues, and if you are like in crisis, talking to those people might help you, because sometimes they give you like, oh, we are here for a purpose and God is going to help you. And sometimes that can be healing for us.
Yeah.
That's really good answer, Daniel. Thanks.
So I just have one more comment. Did someone want to say something?
Yes, I wanted to just add on to that regarding Mbita's question. I think also with us men, and rather us men, with the amount of stress that we go through emotionally and also physically, in the sense that there's so many things that we do. I think also another way of kind of releasing that stress could be a certain hobby that you like doing, probably maybe a sport. I'll give you a good example with myself. I love to go to the gym. So at one point before I got married, I was always going to the gym, and my wife had actually told me to say, look, you're always going to the gym. Why do you go to the gym? You're already fit. But for me, what I tried to explain to her, or what she understands now, is that it is not the physical aspect of me attaining a certain type of body build. It is a mental stimulus and mental training, so that I am able to function in the world today. So for me, every day, there's no question about it. Every day is that I have to spend at least 2 hours of the gym, so that my mind is released. So whatever pressure that I have that's going through at work, be it home, be it so many other things, I do not want to bring that bad energy back home. So it actually helps me be healthy physically and also mentally. And also another thing also with the gym for me is that I look at it in the sense that I want to extend my life. I have 2 kids, so I want to be able to go to my son's wedding and my daughter's wedding, whichever age they want to get married at. So that is a releasing point from what I see, and for me it has helped. I don't compromise. I will not compromise my gym time for anything. So even if I have work, I think like with Muma, she sent me a message earlier, and I said I was getting done with gym. Usually around this time, I'm actually in the gym. So I pushed my schedule back to say, let me get my stuff done in the gym. Let me release whatever needs to be released, so that we can do this right here and talk it out and enjoy. So I can also go home with a fresh mind. And also just talking like this is also a way, is also therapy. I think we need to also have, if we need to have groups, so that we can actually talk about things openly, so that we don't feel the need to shy away or bottle things up. In the end, we end up killing ourselves, with stress. Because truth of the matter is, I'll tell you something. How many in Africa, the number of property owners in Africa are ladies. Do you know why? It's because the men in their lives who have been together, have built everything together, have kicked the bucket. They're dead. There's so many landladies that are around, and there are few landlords or landmen, if one you can call them, all because men have continuously been working time and time again without understanding that they need time to reflect, they need time to refresh, they need time to take care of themselves so that they can live a healthier and better life. And also another thing also, in this I've just been hearing, I've been picking up from a few friends of mine here and there. I think what leads to also men's stress is I think with in households. I think Daniel had pointed this out, of that no respect for no respect for the man of the house. But you find that with that lack of respect, you find that there's also stress. You find majority of the time, he'll come into the house and she's always complaining about this is not done, this is not done, this is not done. It's nagging. We understand, yes, women have a venting point, but you find that where she is exerting it and it is hitting the husband, he has no exit point. So what happens is he's bottling it all up. She may feel that she's speaking her mind quite right, but she must ask herself to say, okay, I'm telling my husband all these things, or I'm explaining all these things, but where is he taking all that? That is one thing ladies also need to consider when it comes to your fellow partner. Where is he taking it out on? Because of course I understand going to the bar, having a drink, yes, that's fine, but those are short-term pleasures. You drink here and there and you're back to square one. He has to have an exit point. There has to be an exit point. If you're going to breathe, bad air has to come out. So if someone is giving you bad energy, it has to come out some way. It has to come out one way or another. So that is one thing that we have to also consider and look into greatly as Africans.
Okay, thank you, PJ. Okay, so just really quick, I want to just read, I'm sorry, the name is showing up as MacBook Pro. So MacBook Pro said to Daniel, to add to your comment, pastors are important to African society, but I feel like we have too many of them who are not well trained to help someone navigate through their mental uncertainty. That's why we need to invest in ourselves more in education about these. I'm going to assume these is this like topic of mental health. And the comment that I was going to read before was, one thing we don't actually practice, which is way simpler on a long-term basis, is opening up about our challenges to the right people. And I think this is something of what PJ has just said in terms of who is your circle. Who are the people that you surround yourself with? Are they people that you can be in confidence with and have these types of conversations with? That's just me adding, sorry. Which is expressed as a weakness, as elaborated by patients, not asking results in people, but not asking results in people being bitter for no apparent reason. Those things are not, okay. Yeah, so that was the last comment, and I think I can hand it over to Moma.
Wow, that is just like, this conversation is so deep, guys. Just listen to all the things that we've just covered. I mean, my brain is right now just like going and fast forward. Hearing this conversation is touching my heart. Like, we have just we've just explained so many solutions in this conversation, so many problems, so many solutions. But one thing that I have to add to the last question and to what PJ and Daniel said is, when Daniel was saying we need to figure out a way maybe at the moment where we get our traditional Africanness and mix it with, like, we show a way of doing things and, you know, mix it with mental health. How do we do that? So Daniel mentioned churches. In most churches, Africans go to church to have the release. And it's true. And I think PJ also related to this when he talked about marriage. For example, in Zambian culture, when you're getting married, a lot of people go for counseling to their pastor and things like that, isn't it? And it's so very true. Sometimes you do find that those pastors will give you encouragement from the Bible. And sometimes the encouragement they will give you is pray about it. But the realities of life is sometimes you do need a professional, and praying about it does not help. At a certain point, you need actual professional help. So maybe because we've got people in churches who are giving this kind of therapy, why don't communities like churches, elders, pastors and things like that, why don't they get some kind of therapy training while they're being pastors? Because they're the ones kind of giving out this kind of advice all the time, clearly, in our culture. It would be a really good way to tackle it if they can all do like a basic level of mental health education, certificate.
Mhm.
It might be really helpful, because on top of how they do therapy by encouraging somebody to pray and use the Bible, having some professional thing with it, in my opinion, would be helpful. And just another point. Yeah.
Moma, sorry, I just want to just to add right there. Geoffrey commented, he said that basically we need, okay, let me read it. Let's assume one doesn't understand what's wrong with them and they can't tell if they have a brain problem or a mind problem. How can one figure that out? So basically trying to distinguish, where do I need to, okay, just see the pastor, or where do I need to go to a professional help? So how does one distinguish this? He says that this needs to be clarified.
So what does he mean by brain problem or mind problem? Anybody,
well, I think
the panelist or anybody in the audience, you can turn on your video, Penny, or anybody. If you've got a comment, you can actually speak and say something now, because it's an open floor.
Okay, I'll go ahead.
Daniel's got a comment.
So I think if I'm not wrong, he's trying to look at the signs and symptoms. Like at what point in their life they're gonna like feel like, oh, I'm feeling depressed, or I'm feeling anxious, or I have other problem that is looking really weird. When you feel like there's something not right with your life, then you need to seek help. For example, depression. There are clear signs of depression. If you're not eating, if you don't do like doing what you used to do, like for example, everything looks like, even getting out of bed, it feels like you need to be pulled by, a force of gravity to get you out of bed, then something is not right. You're not sleeping right. And those aspects, so then you know that you're going through some level of depression. Anxiety is very clear, you cannot hide it. You'll be like, your heart rate rises quickly, and it's just like when you have an exam like that, you have to pass, and this is like the job is tied to your exam. You probably have some mild anxiety, extreme anxiety, and some people I've seen people even cry in the exam room, and that's like some anxiety taking place, and you really realize that you need to like seek help at that level. I think that's from the sign and symptom of it. But and then the thing is, like you don't say like mind problem. It's okay. You say like I'm not feeling okay. And because the thing, we have already connotated this mental health with something so mundane that does not exist. And even in here in America, we still have Africans who migrated to America hiding their kids with mental health. Yeah. This is well documented among the Somali communities, among the Ethiopian communities in like who live in Minnesota, and even here in California. So it's okay, even in the Western world, we're trying to hub ourselves and we want to show that perfect. We live in an imperfect world. It's okay to say like, I'm not feeling good, I'm not feeling right. And answer one last part of the church. I only use the church as one way because there's so many other places you can go. But I'm just saying that in a places like rural areas where someone who is well trained as a psychologist or a psychiatrist might not find financial gain to go to the rural area, we use what we got. African people, we are creative, and in place of adversity, we come up with a little solutions. family. There's some people like your grandmother. She knows how to deal with some issues and she gives you the best advices. Don't forget that. There are people within your circle of influence that have solution to some of your problem and they know how to do it. For example, if you have a problem to some, you know, there are people who have committed suicide because they have menstrual period in Africa because they didn't know that's normal actual part of life. You know, but can you imagine if they had mentorship and someone ahead of them says, you know, you are about 13, 12 years, you're about to experience something beautiful and it's part of normal life.
Whew. This is so amazing. You know what? You've just said something Lukonde said. I remember Lukonde said something about we need, when young men are reaching an age of, what was the word? There's a word he used.
Puberty.
Yeah, puberty or Lukonde, you said it. What was it you said?
Like what?
We
Of
can't hear you
age.
on mute.
Okay, you stepped away.
Sorry. Yeah, so
It's
basically
cold.
when they're transitioning into adulthood.
Yeah. Oh yes, when they're transitioning into adulthood, you're right. So why don't we have like mentorship groups or groups within, I don't know, a certain society? Oh, why don't you just start a group? As I say, we've told you guys, start a group linked to this and start talking about it. You don't have to just be writing. You can do a group that runs for 30 minutes once a month, 20 minutes, because this is, and pick one topic out of mental, because mental health, like you said at the beginning, is so broad. There's so many things within our African culture to unpack and learn, increase on, tackle those things. And then maybe that way, because you've got like a little community or society, it's easy to implement. Okay, so Daniel is from Ethiopia, Lukonde is from Zambia, but he happens to be in Johannesburg. You know, whatever group you're running, you can form smaller like breakaway groups where you've got people mentoring each other, but you all meet on Zoom, or you all meet and actually have a discussion about, these are my feelings. Because the main common theme I keep hearing for myself here is, the main thing is you don't have an outlet. The reason people's mental health keeps getting deteriorating is there's no outlet, there's no education about, you know, what are the symptoms. Daniel, you mentioned symptoms. I'm going to talk about my own personal experience. A year ago, I had to see a therapist, and that was going to be a surprise question. Have you guys seen a therapist? I had to see a therapist, and I remember going to my GP, and she said to me, Muma, you need to see a therapist. And I actually laughed. I laughed at her. I was like, what? See a therapist? I don't need a therapist. I'm okay. I'm normal. That's what I say to her. These were my words. And she said, no, like, I understand that you're African and it's difficult for people of African origin to want to see a therapist, but just try it. Do 2 sessions. If you don't like it, we'll cut it out. But I think you're depressed. And I never believed her. I finally went to see the therapist. And guys, it's the best decision I ever made. And Daniel is so right. How do you know that it's time to see a therapist? My life had completely changed. I was not interested in really leaving the house, like going to, you know, the way I used to go out with my friends. I just did not really, it's not that I wanted to die, but I just didn't want to be around anybody, which is not my personality. My personality type is, as you can hear, I talk a lot, wanting to be around people. I'm an extrovert. I didn't want to be around anybody. There were days I couldn't get out of bed. I just couldn't. Like, I would go 1 week being extremely happy and being extremely okay. The other week, I just cannot even get out of bed physically. Like, I'm so exhausted. And sometimes I haven't even eaten for like a day or two. That is, I love food. That's not like me. Those are some of the signs that showed that I needed to see somebody and talk to somebody. So that's to the question that Geoffrey asked.
So we are coming on an hour and a half. And as you can see, this is a conversation. This is just the start of a conversation that is much needed, especially in our communities. And I guess I just want to ask for some last sentiments from our panelists. What are your what advice would you give, let's say, if a young man came to you and, you know, you just wanted to give them some advice on mental health? What would that be? Anybody can start.
Okay, so I'm gonna start. So this is for people back home in Africa. It's okay to seek help. It's okay to communicate. It's okay to speak. Just like you said earlier, someone said that African men, like you will see like a lot of widowers and a lot of African men have died, because of the precious stress, depression, everything, when the body is, when you put immense pressure to the body, a little disease will take you out, and I was so surprised, like when growing up in Africa, someone goes to the hospital today and the next day he dies. I'm like, this is something that it's been so common that like when someone goes to ICU or somewhere, he never comes home. And because I knew, and then they seek help only like last minute. I have people with migraine. Even my grandmother, she had migraine, and she's like, no, 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 it's okay. It's just like I didn't sleep well. If or you have a blood pressure, and something like blood pressure is a silent killer. Go to the hospital. It doesn't matter. Go to the hospital. Get checked. Here in America or Western world, we have annual checkup. In Africa, someone goes to a hospital after 10 years or 50 years. That's like the last time he's been to the hospital, if you check his record, is 20 years ago. Go out there, see what is going on. Just like your car, you check the engine the same way the body works. You have to check yourself. So, and then the other last thing for our women, especially the ones that I've seen that come to America or other part of the world, do not force yourself to fit in. That should, please, you do not have to go naked for me to love you, And that is something that I have seen that our women, like it's okay to keep your value where you are, in Swahili we say kitenge and everything. You can do whatever makes you happy, but do not like lower your standard to the point where, and that's why we have a lot of our African women here very depressed, and feel not respected and worthy on that, because the thing is you've already lowered your standard, and the thing is, and this is something like, if you devalue yourself, it's just like once you devalue the currency, you've already devalued yourself, and then you don't expect the man to hold you up high like this, because you've already lowered the standard, and that is something that I have seen it, you try to outcompete the people who've been here for 300 years. You can now win them. This is their culture. They know better than us, So do you value yourself? Do something that you have always known, and that value, that's beautiful, be yourself.
That's
Thank you,
great.
Daniel.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just saying thank you, Daniel. Ola, you go ahead.
All right. Well, that's great. I'm just gonna add to what you just said. It's okay. Like, it's okay to be different. Don't feel a type of way. And then seek help whenever you need it. Seek help whenever you need it. It's time for a change. Let's start passing down the generation curses down to the next generation. Let's start from now. It's never too late to make a change. Let's start today. You can make a change. So let's start. And let's make a change. That's pretty much what I would say. Let's start from. It's never too little. It's never too big. As long as you're doing something, it's gonna help somebody else. So let's just stop it on passing it down from generations to generations. So let's take a stand. Let's change it now, and then everybody, we are gonna be better later in the future. The younger generation, our grandkids, all that good stuff is, they're gonna get better. So that's pretty much what I'm gonna add to that.
Fantastic. Thank you. Lukonde?
I think for me, the first step is self-reflection. I think for me, the best conversation is the one you have with yourself, and then you reconcile it with your purpose. I think we can do everything, reach out to society, but the first story we need to build is a story for ourselves within our own mind. And I think for me, the power of the mind is also great. Like, we need to really be honest and truthful to ourselves as a starting point, and also making sure that we also know what our purpose is and we reconcile our story to our purpose. That's my bit.
Deep.
PJ,
Hello.
your concluding remarks.
Oh yes. I think with what everybody has said, I'm short of words, but I'll just freestyle here. So I think what a majority of people, everyone needs to do a few things is be open, talk more, be more expressive. But I think the truth of the matter also is to be very, very honest with yourself in what you're doing and where you want to see yourself in the next few years. Find a hobby. And I think the most important thing I would mention lastly is have faith and pray a lot. A lot of people love to undermine the power of prayer, but it does so much for yourself and everybody around you. I'm speaking from, it's a testament I'm actually saying, because you see, for me, even when I wake up first thing in the morning, I always have to thank God for everything that I have. My state of mind, my family, what I have. Of course, you as men, we're designed to hunt, to achieve great things. So in order for us to get bigger and better things, we have to be grateful for what we have as at now in the present. So prayer takes you a million miles away. Yeah.
That's so true.
Fantastic. Muma?
I just want to say thank you again. I mean, I'll keep saying thank you to you guys. It's really amazing having this conversation. But there are 3 resources I want you guys to write down. We are going to share them because this is recorded, so you guys can share it with whoever you want. The first one is a link to an article by a guy called Antoine Steele, and it's called Why Men Need to Embrace Self-Love, Self-Care, and Self-Accountability. I found that article really inspiring because he's then got an ebook he's written about Black men and mental health that you can read. And it's on blacklove.com. I'll share that. But these 2 resources, Peniel asked, where do I go? Depending on where you are, if you're in Scotland, I think, Peniel, there's organizations. You can just Google mental health organizations online, and you'll be able to find somebody. But I also get why you're asking. As an African man, sometimes the resources that exist do not really cater to your kind of thinking or take into account your traditions and things like that. So there's a website called therapyforblackmen.org, as one word, therapyforblackmen.org. So you can find resources and information on there. And another last one is called BAATN.org.uk. So it stands for Black, African, and Asian Therapy Network. So there's also information there. Then you can move on from there and start looking for any other resources we find. We're going to share them, and you can.
And just to add to what Muma said, Therapy for Black Men is actually offering free therapy for Black men who cannot afford it. So if somebody that needs help, I'm not too sure what scope that is. It's probably maybe for the States, but you could probably find out more information. And therapy is done online these days. It's not just in person, but just so that you know as well. Mama, are you talking? I think you're on mute. Okay, I will close. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Our guests the people that joined the conversation. I can see Penyo, Foambo, Tawanda, Dawn, Beltus, Charlie, Joffrey, and a couple of other people that were on the call. There was Dr. Renez as well, and the other people that have dropped off. But thank you for taking the time to come into the conversation and ask the questions and really want to engage on this topic. Thank you to our panelists. We thank you that you're willing to be open about this topic, because it's something that people don't usually talk about, but because you're open to it, I think this is going to help a lot of men. We have a channel on YouTube that's called Africa, the Master Plan, and that's where we post all our videos. So this has been recorded, and you'll be able to find the recording on Africa, the Master Plan. So thank you. Have a great morning, afternoon, evening, as we're all on different time zones. But again, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye.
Thank you for watching. If you would like to become a panelist, please email us at africatmp@gmail.com.